Hello children, how are you all? I welcome you all to the digital classes. Children, what are the things we need to live? Just answer the question. Yes, we require food, water and shelter to live. Where do we get food from? We get food from plants. So, today we will learn in details about the plants and the tissues. So, by the end of the lesson, you will be learning plants have different types of tissues which are arranged in specific manner to carry out different functions. You will also learn to make temporary slides. You will understand that cells join together to form tissue. Children, you will be able to observe different plant tissues, that is the meristematic tissue, dermal tissue, ground tissue, vascular tissues. Children, you will also able to observe permanent slides of parenchyma, parenchyma, chlorenchyma from the science laboratory. Before going into the lesson, we learned that plants are multicellular bodies. Plants, the parts are stem, leaves, roots and flowers. So, this is what you learnt in your lower classes. You also know that plants perform life processes like growth, respiration, excretion, etc. like animals. Children, here I have a question which you have learnt in your lower classes. What is the important function of a plant? Can you tell me? Yes, plants perform photosynthesis and prepare food material not only for themselves but also for the other organisms dependent on them. So, it is a very important function which a plant does. These plants which look tall and silent, how are they able to stand erect? How are they able to perform photosynthesis? How the life processes are carried on in the plant, that we will study in details in the present chapter, that is the plant tissue. Children, can you name the parts of the plant? Yes, we plants have many parts like stem, root, leaf, flower, fruit. So, these are the main parts of plant. Whether it is a small plant or a big tree, we see these are the parts. So, you also learned that plant parts perform different functions in a specific manner. Children, you see roots. What is the main function of the root? Yes, roots helps in absorption of water and minerals from the soil. Then what is the function of the stomata, children? Yeah, stomata helps in exchange of gases. Then you see, where do you find these stomata, children? They are found in the leaves. Leaves also has important function. Can you guess what is the function of the leaf, children? Leaves helps in various processes like photosynthesis and also transpiration. Then what about the reproduction, children? Reproduction is carried out by the flowers and vegetative parts in some plants. So, this is what you have understood in our class 8. Try to answer this question, children. How can the plant perform all the life processes? Children, any time did you think, is there any specific arrangement of cells in the plants that helps out in carrying out these processes? Children, do you have the same questions? So, we will try to find out the answer for these questions. Children, just look at the picture here. What do you see? Yes, we see cells in the onion peel. This was an experiment conducted in your 8th class. So, after the experiment, what did you observe? We observed that the cells are in a similar structure and they are in compactly arranged. So, this is what we see when we look at the temporary slide of a onion peel cell. Children, all the cells look similar, right? Yes, they look similar. Children, this is the leaf peel. How are the cells in the leaf peel look like? What is this? What do you think about this? This is the lower epidermis of a leaf. What do you observe? Yes, you observe some dot-like structures. What could be this dot-like structure, children? They are the tiny openings present on the leaf. They are called as stomata. Children, what is the function of the stomata? Yes, they helps in exchange of gases. Here you also can see some tubular structure. What are they, children? Just try to imagine. Children, you know that in the human body, blood flows throughout the body. So, blood vessels are the vessels which carry blood throughout the body. Similarly, even in the leaf also, these veins, the tubular structures helps in conducting water, minerals, salts to the entire plant body. Children, here we do another experiment and we try to observe the cells. For this, we need to take an onion, put it on top of the glass containing water, leave it aside for a week and try to observe. What do you observe? You observe roots arising from the bulb of the onion. Now, if we cut out these roots and observe it under the microscope, you see certain structures. Here, the large number of cells are very closely packed. Cells are in different shapes, their arrangement is differing. So, that is what is the tissue does. Children, can you say what is a tissue? Tissue is a group of cells. That means the cells in groups join together to perform a similar function. Moreover, they are similar in their structure. So, that is the tissue. Shall we define what is tissue? Cells in group which are nearly similar in structure performs similar functions. Such group of cells are called as tissues. Here you see a group of similar cells joining together to form tissues. Different types of tissues join together to form organs, and different organs are combined together to form an organ system, and so many organ systems togetherly forms an organism. So, with this we can say a plant is consist of number of organ systems and it has number of tissues. So, tissues mainly classified into 4 types. They are dermal tissue, ground tissue, vascular tissue and meristematic tissue. So, here you can see in this picture, children, so many tissues are organized in a systematic manner. This is stem cutting from a plant. So, to understand the detailed structure of the tissues and the types of tissues, we have to visit our laboratory and we take out the permanent slides from the slide box and we mount it under the microscope and try to understand. Here you see these are the slides which are seen under the microscope. Don't you feel amazing, children? The plant has so many cells? Yes, and you see their arrangements also here. In the first type of tissue we study is the meristematic tissue. What is meristematic tissue, children? We will study about the structure and the function of the meristematic tissue. This is a tissue that brings about overall growth and repair are called as meristematic tissue. Cells are small and have thin cell wall. Children, these meristematic tissue, we find them at the growing regions. They are smaller and they are having thin cell wall because they will be dividing continuously and giving more number of cells. Thereby, the plant growth takes place. Even sometimes you see due to the wind or due to the hitting by the storm, the plant body gets damaged. At that particular site, this meristematic tissue comes into the action and it divides continuously, producing large number of cells, and it heals the damage occurred to the plant. That is why the plants are able to withstand and get repaired even in the heavy winds and rains. Children, these meristematic tissue are living with prominent nucleus and abundant cytoplasm. As we said, meristematic tissue have continuously dividing cells. These cells are compactly arranged without any space. Children, here you can see a small plant. What happens to the plant after 4 or 5 years? How does it look like? Yes, it looks like a tree. It grows in height and it also grows in width. What makes it to grow in the height as well as in the width? This is the function of meristematic tissue. This meristematic tissue continuously dividing, thereby the plant grows vertically and also the plant grows horizontally. That is why after certain years you can see the small plant turning into a big tree. Children, just think once, what about the root, children? Do they grow in the similar way? Yes, root also grows vertically under the ground. There also meristematic tissue divides continuously and helps in the growth of the roots. But these roots are provided and protected with root caps. Now, meristematic tissue. Here you see, children, here this is the tip of the root. You can see large number of cells here. They are thin as well as they are very small. These cells are continuously dividing to form the more number of cells. Thereby, the size of the shoot increases. Here you can see some meristematic tissue you can see in the lateral branches too. Here also lateral branches are arising from here. So, thereby increasing the length of the shoot. Here you see in the axil of the branch you see a new tissue is growing. This is also meristematic tissue. This tissue will develop into the flowers, sometimes into the fruits or the new branches or leaves. Children, we talk about the types of meristematic tissue. Based upon the location, meristematic tissue are classified into 3 types. If the meristem is present in the apical region, that is the tip of the root or the tip of the shoot, we call the tissue as apical meristem. If the tissue is present at the lateral branches, then we call it as lateral meristematic tissue. And if the tissue is present in between the stem or the nodes, we call them as intercalary meristem. So, this meristematic tissue is playing very important role in the life of the plant, especially for the growth. Wherever you see growth or wherever you see any repairing, you see the large number of meristematic tissue. Children, I hope I am clear with the first type of a tissue. What is that, children? Yes, it is a meristematic tissue. Here you can just locate apical meristem, intercalary meristem and the lateral meristem clearly. Is it not interesting and amazing, children? Have you ever thought the plant has so many cells and so much of growth is taking place in the plant? Yes, it is an amazing. Children, after the meristem, we will study about the second type of tissue, that is the dermal tissue. Imagine what is the meaning of the derm? Yeah, the dermis means the covering. So, the tissue which covers the entire body of the plant is called as dermal tissue. Based upon the location, this dermal tissue is divided into three types, that is the epidermis, the mesodermis and the endodermis. Where do you find epidermis, children? Epi means outer. So, the plant body which is covered with the tissue is called as epidermis. This forms the outermost layer and it is covering the entire plant body. Now, in between the plant tissue, there are certain other tissues which are to be protected. So, those tissues are protected with mesodermis tissue. And we also see some conductive tissue, those vascular bundles or the conductive tissues are protected with endodermis. Here you can see, children, in this picture, this is the epidermis you can see here, this is the outermost layer you can see, this is the epidermis. Yeah, this epidermis is giving rise to certain hair-like structure which are called as root hair, and we also find certain openings called as stomata. These are the mesodermis tissue which is beneath the epidermis and beneath the parenchyma cells. Here very prominently you can see the endodermis tissue which is protecting the vascular tissue, that is the conductive tissues. So, we will learn more about the functions of the dermal tissue. Dermal tissue protect the plant from the loss of water. That is, during summer you see the temperature rises and due to the high temperature the water which is present in the plant starts evaporating. So, this dermal tissue will not allow to lose the water. So, this is protecting the plant from loss of water. This dermal tissue is also protecting from the mechanical damages. That is, suppose anybody is hitting or any animal is coming and scratching over the plant. This dermal tissue is covering the body of the plant and protecting the inner cells. This dermal tissue is also helpful from parasitic diseases. Sometimes you see some parasites or some insects which come onto the plant body and it starts damaging the plant. So, this dermal tissue helps the plant body to protect itself. Children, what do you see here? You see a tall tree, right? In these big trees or whenever you look at the big trees, you see the stem. How does the stem look like? The stem look like thick layer and we call the thick layer as bark. So, this bark is nothing but the dermal tissue which is many layered. So, it is protecting the inner parts of the plant. We also studied that stomata helps in exchange of gases, and we also studied the root hair helps in absorption of water and minerals from the soil. So, the stomata as well as the root hair are also called as dermal tissue. Look at this picture, children. This is the microscopic picture of a stomata. Here this is where the exchange of gases takes place. Children, let us look at the typical stomata. Stomatas are the small openings which are present in the dermal tissue. So, you can just see this is the small opening which is protected by the guard cells. These guard cells are kidney shaped. They takes in carbon dioxide and gives out oxygen during photosynthesis. Children, we will study about the third type of tissue, that is the ground tissue. These cells from the ground tissue, this is useful for storing food and providing physical support. This ground tissue forms a bulk of the plant. That means, most part of the plant is filled with ground tissue. This ground tissue is again having three types of cells. They are parenchyma, chlorenchyma and the chlorenchyma. Here you can see the most part of the dicot stem is filled with the tissue, and this is the ground tissue. Even in the monocots, you see large number of cells present in the center, that is nothing but the ground tissue. Children, here we compare parenchyma, chlorenchyma and the chlorenchyma. If you look at this picture, the parenchyma cells are thin and they are large, having intercellular spaces in between them. The chlorenchyma has thick cell wall without any intercellular spaces. Now, if we talk about the sclerenchyma, sclerenchyma contains mostly dead cells and they are having thick cell wall. Children, just have a look at parenchyma cells. The cells of parenchyma are soft, thin walled and are loosely packed. Now, look at this chlorenchyma. Where do you find the chlorenchyma, children? This is a type of parenchyma cell which is having chloroplasts. Children, you see the leaves as well as the young stem, they are green in color because they are having chlorenchyma. That is, these parenchyma tissue having chloroplast, that is why they are called as chlorenchyma. Children, here you see another type of tissue called as parenchyma. The parenchyma which has space between them, that is, they are having air cavities in between the tissue, we call such tissue as parenchyma. They helps the water plants to float in water. Can you name some of the water plants, children? Yes, water lily, hyacinth, pistia, etc. So, these water plants are floating in the water. Plant will store the food material prepared during photosynthesis. So, the food which was prepared during photosynthesis is stored in this tissue. That is why this tissue is named as storage tissue. Here you see the large number of fruits which we consume, which are nothing but the storage tissues of the plant. Children, when you look at the tender plants, what happens to them? They move along with the wind. Do they get damaged? No, most of the time they do not get damaged. Why? When a plant body or a leaf or whenever it is moving along with the wind, it does not get damaged because of this chlorenchyma tissue. Now, we study about a sclerenchyma. In sclerenchyma, the cells are thick walled and tightly packed without spaces, and they give protection for the fruits. So, this nut, the shell which is having here, this coconut shell or the groundnut you see, those shells are harder because of the presence of sclerenchyma. Now, we study about the fourth tissue, that is the complex tissue. It is called as vascular tissue. As we know that root can absorb water from the soil and send it to other parts of the plant. We also know that leaves and green parts of the plant prepare food and supply it to all parts of the plant. So, vascular tissue involved in transportation. Children, you can see how the transportation is taking place in plant. Here you see the water and minerals which is present in the soil is absorbed through the roots, that is with the help of a tissue called as xylem. So, this xylem which is present in the root is helping in absorbing the water and minerals from the soil. Children, food is prepared by the leaf by a process called as photosynthesis. Now, the food which is prepared by the leaf is supplied to all parts of the plant. So, this food is supplied or transported to other parts of the plant through a tissue called as phloem. So, phloem is helpful in conducting food material and xylem is helpful in conducting water. Now, this xylem again has 4 different types of tissues like tracheids, xylem parenchyma, fibers, tube and vessels. Now, phloem fibers. Phloem fibers are again divided into 4 types like CV tube, CV companion cells, phloem parenchyma, etc. In this picture, you can look here the xylem which is taking water onto the plant. So, from the soil the water is supplied to all parts of the plant with the help of xylem. Now, you see here phloem. The phloem, what is the phloem doing? It is the glucose, that is the food material prepared by the plant is supplied to all parts of the plant. So, with this we can say xylem and phloem are conducting tissue. Children, I am here to present an interesting facts about plants. Vascular tissue carry water to the greater heights in the plant body. It is up to 200 feet in eucalyptus plant and up to 330 feet in the redwood tree. So, just have a look at the tree here. Oh, how tall the tree is! Still the vascular bundle is able to carry water and food throughout the plant. Here you can see some more trees here. Even in these trees, the vascular tissue is conducting water, minerals and food to all parts of the plant. I will ask few questions from the lesson. So, whatever you have understood, just try to answer these questions. Describe the function of xylem and phloem. Imagine what happens if dermal tissue gets damaged. Children, can you guess how water plants are able to float on water? Though chlorenchyma, parenchyma and storage tissues are parenchymatous in nature, why do they have different names? You also observe the ground tissue of some plants and note your observation. Lastly, you write about the meristematic tissue. For the better understanding of the concepts, solve the worksheets. Children, here we studied the plant tissues. So, I will be coming again with another interesting aspect in the next class. Thank you.